60 Men Who Changed History. Musab Ibn Umair, the First Envoy of Islam, Part 2. Meeting his mother. Musab stood before his mother, the people, and the nobles of Makkah who assembled around him, telling them the irrefutable truth and reciting the Quran with which the Prophet, peace be upon him, cleansed their hearts and filled them with honor, wisdom, justice, and piety. His mother aimed a heavy blow at him, but the hand which was meant as an arrow soon succumbed to the powerful light emanating from her son's face. His strong belief gave him a quiet confidence that demanded respect from anyone who would interact with him, imprisoned in his own house. However, his mother, because of her love, spared him the beating and the pain, although it was within her power to avenge her gods whom he had abandoned. Instead, she took him to a rough corner of her house and shut him in it. She put shackles on him and imprisoned him there until he heard the news of the emigration, hijrah, of some of the believers to Abyssinia. He was able to delude his mother and his guards and so escaped to Abyssinia, emigrating to Abyssinia. There he stayed in Abyssinia with his fellow emigrants and then returned with them to Makkah. He also emigrated to Abyssinia for the second time with the companions, whom the Prophet, peace be upon him, advised to emigrate, and they obeyed. But whether Musab was in Abyssinia or in Makkah, the experience of his faith proclaimed itself in all places and at all times. Musab became confident that his life had become good enough to be offered as a sacrifice to the supreme originator and great creator. He went out one day to some Muslims while they were sitting around the Prophet, peace be upon him. And no sooner did they see him than they lowered their heads and shed some tears because they saw him wearing worn-out garments. They were accustomed to his former appearance before he had become a Muslim, when his clothes had been like garden flowers, elegant and fragrant. The Prophet, peace be upon him, saw him with the eyes of wisdom, thankful and loving, and his lips smiled gracefully as he said, "I saw Musab here, and there was no youth in Makkah more pampered by his parents than him." Then he abandoned all that for the love of Allah and his Prophet. His mother had withheld from him all the luxury he had been accustomed to when she could not return him to her religion. She refused to let anyone who had abandoned their gods eat of her food, even if he was her son. Her last connection with him was when she tried to imprison him for a second time after his return from Abyssinia, and he swore that if she did that, he would kill all those who came to her aid to lock him up. She knew the truth of his determination when he was intent and decided to do something, and so she bade him goodbye while she was weeping. The last conversation with his mother. The parting moment revealed a strange adherence to infidelity on the part of his mother and the greater adherence to faith on the part of her son. When she said to him, while turning him out of her house, "Go away, I am no longer your mother," he went close to her and said, "O mother, I am advising you and my heart is with you. Please bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and messenger." She replied to him, angrily raging, "By the stars, I will never enter your religion to degrade my status and weaken my senses." So Musab left the great luxury in which he had been living. He became satisfied with a hard life he had never seen before, wearing the roughest clothes, eating one day and going hungry another. This spirit, which was grounded in the strongest faith, adorned with the light of Allah, made him another man, one who appeals to the eyes of other great souls. The mission to go to Medina. While he was in this state, the Prophet, peace be upon him, commissioned him with the greatest mission of his life, which was to be his envoy to Al-Medina. His mission was to instruct the Ansar who believed in the Prophet, peace be upon him, and had pledged their allegiance to him at Aqaba to call others to Islam and to prepare Medina for the day of the Great Hijrah. There were other companions who were older than Musab, more prominent and nearer to the Prophet, peace be upon him, by family relations. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, chose Musab the good, knowing that he was entrusting to him the most important task of that time, putting into his hands the destiny of Islam at Medina. The radiant city of Medina was destined to be the home of Hijrah, the springboard of Islamic preachers and the liberators of the future. Musab was equal to the task and trust which Allah had given him, and he was equipped with an excellent mind and noble character. He won the hearts of the Madinites with his piety, uprightness, and sincerity. And so they embraced the religion of Allah in flocks, from 12 to 70 Muslims in Medina. At the time the Prophet, peace be upon him, sent him there, only 12 Muslims had pledged allegiance to the Prophet, peace be upon him, at the pledge of Aqaba. He had hardly completed a few months when they answered to the call of Allah and the Prophet, peace be upon him. During the next pilgrimage season, the Madinite Muslims sent a delegation of 70 believing men and women to Makkah to meet the Prophet, peace be upon him. They came with their teacher and their Prophet's envoy, Musab Ibn Umair. Musab had proven, by his good sense and excellence, that the Prophet, peace be upon him, knew well how to choose his envoys and teachers. Musab had understood his mission well. He knew that he was a caller to Allah and preacher of his religion, which calls people to the right guidance and the straight path. Like the Prophet, peace be upon him, in whom he believed, he was no more than a deliverer of the message. There he stood fast, with Asad ibn Zurara as host, and both of them used to visit the tribes, dwellings, and assemblies, reciting to the people what he had of the Book of Allah, instilling in them that Allah is no more than one God. The threat by Usaid. He had confronted certain instances which could have put an end to his life and that of those with him, but for his active, intelligent, great mind. One day, he was taken by surprise while preaching to the people to find Usaid ibn Qudair, leader of one of the tribes in Medina, confronting him with a drawn arrow. Usaid was raging with anger and animosity against the one who had come to corrupt the religion. What did Musab do when he was threatened by Usaid? Inshallah, we will know that tomorrow. Please like this video, share it and subscribe so you can get automatic updates.